Welcome to the channel. Love sci-fi? Subscribe, like, and share the journey. Captain Rex Thorne stood at the observation deck of the orbital station Haven's Rest, watching the sleek transport vessels of the Galactic Predator Coalition dock at the lower berths. The irony wasn't lost on him. A human, member of a species most galactic civilizations still considered barely evolved primates, had been appointed as the chief administrator of the Coalition's most precious cargo facility. The facility housed the young of 43 different predator species from across the galaxy. Each species represented apex hunters on their respective worlds: the razor-clawed Talon from Kepler 442b, the pack-hunting Fang from the Vega system, the serpentine Coil from the asteroid belts of Proxima Centauri. All of them had one thing in common: they had entrusted their most vulnerable offspring to human care. "Sir," came a voice behind him. Dr. Maya Chen, the station's head of xenobiology, approached with a datapad clutched in her hands. "The morning reports are in. All 247 cubs are healthy and accounted for." Rex nodded, though his weathered face remained thoughtful. 3 years ago, when the Coalition had first proposed this arrangement, he'd laughed. The idea that humanity, a species that had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, would be trusted with the young of the galaxy's most dangerous predators seemed absurd. "The Ravenclaw delegation is requesting an audience," Maya continued. "Ambassador Crix wants to observe the nursery procedures before the next shipment arrives." The Ravenclaw were perhaps the most fearsome of all Coalition species, standing nearly 10 feet tall with metallic talons that could slice through titanium and sensory organs that could detect fear hormones from miles away. They were apex predators, even among apex predators. Their cubs were arriving next week, 20 of them, the largest single shipment the station had ever received. Rex made his way through the station's corridors, passing the reinforced windows that looked into various habitat modules. In Section C, a group of young Talon were engaged in what looked like play-fighting, but was actually sophisticated combat training. Their human caretaker, Tom, sat cross-legged among them, occasionally intervening when the sparring became too intense. In Section D, the Fang cubs were curled up in a communal sleeping area, while their human guardian, Lisa, monitored their vital signs. The Fang were nocturnal pack hunters, and their young required specific social bonding protocols that human researchers had spent months perfecting. "Why us?" Rex had asked the Coalition leaders during that first meeting. "Why trust humans with your young?" The answer had come from Elder Vex of the Talon Consortium. "Because you are the only species that protects what is not your own as fiercely as you protect your own." At the time, Rex had dismissed it as diplomatic flattery. Now, watching his staff work with the alien cubs, he was beginning to understand what the Elder had meant. The station's intercom crackled to life. "All senior staff to Conference Room Alpha. Priority Alpha 7. Rex's blood ran cold. Priority Alpha 7 meant only one thing: a cub was in danger. He ran through the corridors, Maya close behind. The conference room was already filled with agitated voices when they arrived. On the main screen, a distress beacon blinked ominously. A transport ship carrying 12 coil hatchlings had suffered a catastrophic engine failure in the neutral zone between Coalition space and the territory of the hostile Void Collective. "Time until the Void Collective patrol finds them?" Rex asked. 6 hours, maybe less," replied Chief Engineer Jake Morrison. "If the Collective captures those hatchlings," he didn't need to finish. The Void Collective had a reputation for studying captured alien young, often through methods that would be considered torture by any civilized standard. Rex looked around the room at his staff. Humans. Every one of them. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and caregivers who had dedicated their lives to protecting the young of species that could easily tear them apart. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. "Prep the Guardian's promise for immediate launch," Rex commanded. "We're going to get those hatchlings." The rescue ship Guardian's promise dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the neutral zone, its sensors immediately picking up the distress signal from the damaged coil transport. Captain Rex Thorne studied the tactical display from the bridge, noting the ominous presence of 3 Void Collective scoutships closing in on the disabled vessel. "ETA to intercept?" he asked Navigator Beth Rodriguez. 47 minutes at maximum burn," she replied, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. But the collective ships will reach them in 32. Rex gritted his teeth. The Guardian's promise was fast but not armed for combat. It was designed as a rescue vessel, equipped with medical facilities and specialized containment units for transporting vulnerable alien young. Against the collective's warships, it would be like bringing a medical kit to a gunfight. "Sir," Communications Officer Jim Park looked up from his station. "I'm receiving a transmission from the coil transport. Audio only. Their visual systems are down." "Put it through." The bridge filled with the serpentine hiss-click language of the coil, translated in real time by the ship's AI. "Human vessel. This is Captain Slicks of the Transport Emerald Scale. Our life support is failing. The hatchlings. They won't survive much longer in this cold." Rex grabbed the communicator. "Captain Slicks, this is Captain Thorne of the rescue vessel Guardian's Promise. We're en route to your position. Can you maintain life support for another 45 minutes? A long pause, filled with what sounded like labored breathing. "Negative, human friend. Our thermal generators are offline. Coil Young cannot survive below 40 degrees Celsius for more than 20 minutes. We have 12 minutes remaining." Dr. Maya Chen looked up from her medical console. "Rex, there's no way we can reach them in time. Even if we push the engines past Redline, we're still 15 minutes short." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Rex stared at the tactical display, watching the 3 red dots of the collective ships creeping closer to the yellow dot representing the coil transport. In his mind, he could see the 12 hatchlings, barely 3 feet long, their scales still soft and vulnerable, their bodies shutting down as the cold seeped into their compartments. "Set course for the collective ships," Rex ordered suddenly. "Sir?" Beth's hands froze over her controls. "You heard me. Set an intercept course for the lead collective vessel." "Captain," Jim spoke up, his voice uncertain. "Our standing orders are to avoid engagement with hostile forces. The Coalition was very clear about that." Rex turned to face his crew. These were good people, humans who had volunteered for one of the most dangerous assignments in known space, caring for the young of species that most galactic civilizations still considered monsters. They deserved to know what he was asking of them. "Those hatchlings will die if we follow protocol," he said quietly. "The collective will capture them, study them, probably dissect them while they're still alive. They're babies, people. They don't understand why they're cold, why they're scared, why their caretakers can't help them." Chief Engineer Jake Morrison looked up from his console. "What are you proposing, Captain?" "We ram the lead ship." The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. Beth was the first to find her voice. "Sir, that's suicide. The Guardian's Promise isn't built for combat. We'd be vaporized before we got within 1,000 kilometers." "Maybe," Rex acknowledged. "But it might buy the coil transport enough time to restart their thermal generators. And it might make the other collective ships think twice about continuing their approach." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "Rex, there has to be another way. The Coalition can't afford to lose this crew, and they certainly can't afford to have humans starting a war with the Void Collective." "The Coalition put us in charge of protecting these cubs," Rex replied. "All of them, not just the ones that are convenient to save." He looked around the bridge one more time. "This is not an order. Anyone who wants to transfer to the escape pods has 60 seconds to do so. I won't think less of anyone who chooses to save themselves." Nobody moved. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "If we're going to ram them, we might as well make it count. I can overload the fusion reactor, create a bigger explosion. I can mask our approach with sensor chaff," added Beth. "Make us look like space debris until we're right on top of them." Jim nodded toward his communication console. "I'll send a message to the coil transport. Tell them to be ready to restart their systems the moment we hit." Rex felt something tighten in his chest. Pride, he realized. Pride in his species, in his crew, in the choice they were making together. "All right then," he said, settling into the captain's chair. "Let's go save some hatchlings." The Guardian's Promise streaked through space on a collision course with the lead Void Collective warship, its hull shuddering under the strain of maximum acceleration. On the bridge, Captain Rex Thorne watched the tactical display as the distance closed. 200,000 kilometers, 100,000, 50,000. "Sensor chaff deployed," reported Navigator Beth Rodriguez. We should look like a large piece of debris to their sensors for another 3 minutes. Chief Engineer Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the comm from the engine room. Fusion reactor at 150% normal output and climbing. When this baby goes, it's going to light up half the sector. Collective ships are maintaining course. Communications. Officer Jim Park announced. No indication they've detected us yet. Rex kept his eyes fixed on the main screen, where the sleek, predatory lines of the collective warship grew larger by the second. The Void Collective had a reputation for ruthless efficiency, but they were also known for their arrogance. They wouldn't expect a human rescue ship to attempt a ramming attack. It was tactically insane. "Sir," Dr. Maya Chen called from her medical station. "I'm picking up biosignatures from the coil transport. The hatchlings are still alive, but their life signs are getting weaker." "Time to impact?" Rex asked. 90 seconds, Beth replied, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Rex opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. In about a minute, we're going to hit that collective ship harder than anything in the history of galactic warfare. I want you all to know, it's been an honor serving with you. You've shown me what it means to be human." The tactical display showed they were now close enough to see individual weapon ports on the collective vessel. Rex could make out the angular, menacing design that had struck fear into countless civilizations across the galaxy. 30 seconds to impact, Beth announced. "Wait," Jim called out suddenly. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from hyperspace. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL." The main screen flickered and changed to show not one, but 15 ships emerging from hyperspace drives. Rex recognized the sleek, predatory designs immediately. Coalition vessels. Talon hunter-killers, Fang-pack cruisers, and massive coil dreadnoughts materialized around the collective ships like vengeful spirits. "This is Battle Group Commander Vex of the Talon Fleet," came a voice over the communications channel, the translator rendering the alien words in perfect English. "Human vessel Guardians promise, you are ordered to alter course immediately." Rex stared at the screen in disbelief. "How did they—" "Emergency beacon," Maya said, checking her console. The transport ship's distress call was automatically relayed to Coalition Command. They must have dispatched a rescue fleet the moment they received it. The Void Collective ships had immediately changed course upon seeing the Coalition battle group, but they were too late. The faster Coalition vessels were already moving to intercept, their weapons powering up with lethal intent. "All collective vessels, this is Commander Vex. You have entered Coalition space and threatened Coalition Young. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Rex watched as the tactical situation shifted dramatically. The 3 collective ships found themselves surrounded by 15 Coalition warships, each one individually more powerful than the entire collective squadron combined. "Sir," Beth asked, "should I alter course?" Rex looked at the tactical display. One more time, the collective ships were already broadcasting surrender signals, their weapons powering down. The immediate threat was over. "Yes, take us to the coil transport. We still have hatchlings to save." 20 minutes later, Rex stood in the Guardian's Promises medical bay, watching Dr. Chen tend to 12 small coil hatchlings. The serpentine creatures were barely a foot long, their scales still the soft green of youth rather than the metallic emerald they would develop as adults. They coiled around heated elements that the medical team had jury-rigged, their tiny bodies soaking up the warmth. "They'll be fine," Maya reported. "A few more minutes and we might have lost them, but their core temperatures are back to normal." Rex reached out carefully and touched one of the hatchlings. Its scales were surprisingly soft, and it turned its head toward him with large, curious eyes that held no fear. "Captain Thorne," came a voice from behind him. Rex turned to see a towering figure in the doorway. Commander Vex of the Talon, standing, nearly 9 feet tall with razor-sharp talons that gleamed in the medical bay's light. "Commander," Rex acknowledged with a nod. "The Coalition Council has reviewed the sensor logs from this incident," Vex said, his translator rendering his growling voice into precise English. "Your actions today, attempting to sacrifice your ship and crew to save young that were not your own, this was recorded and transmitted to every Coalition world." Rex frowned. "I'm not sure I understand." Vex stepped closer, and Rex could see the Predator's eyes, ancient, intelligent, and filled with something that looked like respect. "For 3 years, the Coalition has watched humans care for our young. We have been curious about your motivations. Today, you have shown us something we had not seen in any other species, which is the willingness to die for cubs that share no genetic material with you. The Talon have a word for this, Kethvar. It means protector of the young that are not yours. It is our highest honor. Rex looked back at the coil hatchlings, now warm and safe in their temporary habitat. They're just kids, Commander. That's all that mattered. Vex made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter, though it sounded more like a purr mixed with a growl. Yes, Captain Thorne. That is exactly why we trust you with our cubs. 3 days after the rescue in the neutral zone, Captain Rex Thorne found himself in a situation he'd never imagined, standing before the full Galactic Predator Coalition Council, with representatives from every member species present. The chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate beings ranging from the compact, muscular Fang to the massive, tentacled Kraken from the deep ocean worlds. Elder Vex of the Talon Consortium stood at the center of the circular chamber, his metallic talons clicking against the polished stone floor as he addressed the assembly. Council members, Vex began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. We are here to discuss the events of 3 days ago, and what they reveal about our partnership with humanity. Rex shifted uncomfortably in his seat. To his left sat Dr. Maya Chen and Chief Engineer Jake Morrison, both looking equally out of place among the galaxy's apex predators. They were the only humans in a room full of beings that could tear them apart without effort. The humans, continued Elder Slicks of the Coil Parliament, her serpentine form coiled gracefully around her speaking platform, risked their lives to save 12 hatchlings of our species. They were prepared to sacrifice themselves for young that shared no genetic connection to them. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Clicks, growls, hisses, and sounds that had no human equivalent, all translated in real time by the chamber's AI systems. This behavior, added Pack Leader Grimm of the Fang Collective, defies evolutionary logic. Natural selection should favor those who preserve their own genetic line above all others. Rex cleared his throat. If I may, council members. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye, sensor organ, and detection apparatus turned toward him. You keep talking about evolutionary logic and genetic connections, Rex said, standing slowly. But you're missing something important. For humans, protecting the young isn't just about genetics. It's about choice. Elder Vex tilted his massive head. Explain. Rex looked around the chamber, meeting the gazes of beings that had evolved from predators across dozens of worlds. Every species here evolved as hunters. You're all apex predators on your respective worlds. That means you understand strength, dominance, survival of the fittest. But humans were different. He walked to the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. Humans weren't apex predators on Earth. We were prey. We survived not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we learned to work together. Because we chose to protect each other, even when it wasn't in our immediate self-interest. Elaborate, growled High Commander Razor of the Blade Runners, her 6 arms folded across her chitinous chest. On Earth, humans formed tribes, communities, civilizations. We didn't just protect our own children. We protected the children of our neighbors, our friends, even strangers. We developed something called empathy, the ability to care about the suffering of others even when that suffering doesn't directly affect us. Dr. Chen stood up beside him. If I may add to that, Captain Thorne, in human societies we have a concept called moral obligation. The idea that certain actions are right or wrong regardless of their evolutionary advantage. Protecting the innocent, caring for the vulnerable. These aren't just instincts for us. They're choices we make because we believe they're the right thing to do. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. Rex caught fragments of the translations, impossible, evolutionarily unstable. How did they survive with such behavior? Elder Vex raised one massive talon, and the chamber fell silent again. You claim that humans will risk their lives for young that are not their own, not because of instinct, but because of choice. This is unprecedented in our experience. It's more than that, Rex said. When we see a child, any child, from any species, in danger, something in us responds. We can't just walk away. We can't just let it happen. It doesn't matter if that child is human, Talon, Coil, or something we've never seen before. If it's young, if it's vulnerable, if it needs protection, we protect it. Jake Morrison stood up, his engineering uniform looking absurdly simple among the elaborate ceremonial garb of the alien dignitaries. 3 years ago, you asked us to care for your young. You want to know why we said yes? It wasn't for the technology transfer or the trade agreements or the political alliance. We said yes because those cubs needed someone to take care of. Them. And we couldn't stand the thought of them being alone and afraid. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, deep thinker Abyss of the Kraken depths spoke, her voice like the sound of ocean currents translated into words. This behavior you describe, this empathy, it should have been eliminated by natural selection. How did humans survive long enough to develop space travel? Rex smiled. Because protecting each other made us stronger. When humans work together, to protect the vulnerable, we become something greater than the sum of our parts. We build civilizations, create art, develop technology, explore the stars, all because we learned that the strongest societies are the ones that protect their weakest members. Elder Vex was quiet for several minutes, his ancient eyes studying the 3 humans before him. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that silenced the entire chamber. For millennia, the Coalition has searched for a species that could be trusted with our most precious resource, our young. We tried the Keepers, who abandoned their charges when it became inconvenient. We tried the Shepherds, who demanded payment for their services. We tried the Guardians, who treated our cubs as curiosities to be studied. He stepped closer to Rex, his massive form towering over the human captain. But humans. Humans treat our young as if they were your own. Not because you must, but because you choose to. This is why we trust you. This is why, 3 days ago, when our sensors detected the Guardians' promise on a collision course with a collective warship, 15 Coalition battle groups immediately jumped to hyperspace to assist you. Rex felt his heart skip a beat. 15 battle groups. The largest military response in Coalition history, confirmed Elder Slicks. Every species with cubs on Haven's rest station sent their fastest ships the moment they learned you were in danger. Not to protect their young, but to protect the humans who protect their young. The revelation hit Rex like a physical blow. The Coalition hadn't just trusted humans with their cubs. They had committed their entire military force to protecting the humans who cared for those cubs. Why? Rex asked quietly. Elder Vex made that sound again, the one the translator called laughter. Because, Captain Thorne, you have shown us something we thought was impossible. A species that chooses to be good, not because it benefits them, but because it is right. And that is worth protecting. 6 months after the incident in the neutral zone, Captain Rex Thorne received a message that changed everything. The holographic display in his office aboard Haven's rest station flickered to life, showing the imposing figure of Elder Vex. But something was different about the Talon leader's usual composed demeanor. Captain Thorne, Vex began, his translator, rendering his agitated clicking into terse English. We have a situation that requires immediate human intervention. Rex leaned forward in his chair. In the months since the rescue mission, relations between humanity and the Coalition had deepened significantly. More human-staffed facilities had been established across Coalition space, and the number of alien cubs under human care had tripled. But Vex's tone suggested this was something else entirely. What kind of situation? Rex asked. A test, Vex replied grimly, though not one we designed. The hologram shifted to show a star map of the Outer Rim territories, where a red marker pulsed ominously near the edge of Coalition space. 3 days ago, a research vessel from the planet Nexus made an unauthorized entry into the Forbidden Sector, Vex continued. They discovered something that should not exist. A planet inhabited by a previously unknown species. A species with young. Rex felt a chill run down his spine. The Forbidden Sector was off-limits to all Coalition traffic due to its proximity to void collective territory and the presence of various spatial anomalies that made hyperspace travel dangerous. What kind of species? He asked. The researchers have designated them the Gentle Ones, Vex replied. They appear to be completely non-aggressive. No natural weapons, no defensive capabilities, no territorial instincts. They are, by all accounts, the most vulnerable sentient species we have ever encountered. Dr. Maya Chen entered Rex's office just as the hologram shifted to show surveillance footage from the research vessel. The images showed humanoid beings with soft, pale features and large, curious eyes. They moved with a graceful, unhurried gait and seemed to show no fear of the alien researchers who had discovered them. "They're beautiful," Maya whispered, studying the footage. "But how did they survive to develop sentience without any defensive capabilities?" "That is precisely the question," Vex replied. "And it becomes more pressing when you consider this. The planet is located directly in the path of an expanding, void collective mining operation. The collective's survey ships will reach the planet in approximately 47 days. Rex understood immediately. "And when they do, they'll strip the planet bare, with no regard for the inhabitants." "Precisely. The Gentle Ones have no concept of warfare, no understanding of danger from other species. They will not resist, because they do not know they need to resist. The collective will likely process them along with the planet's other biological resources." Maya looked horrified. "Process them. Convert them to raw materials," Vex explained matter-of-factly. "The Void Collective sees no distinction between sentient beings and any other form of organic matter." Rex stood up, pacing to the window that looked out over the station's docking bays. Several Coalition ships were visible, their predatory designs a stark contrast to the sleek, peaceful lines of human vessels. "What do you want us to do?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. "The Coalition Council has voted," Vex said. "We cannot directly intervene. The Gentle One's planet is in neutral space, and military action there would be considered an act of war by the collective. But humans aren't officially part of the Coalition military structure," Rex finished. "We could go there as a humanitarian mission." "Precisely. The question is, will you?" Rex looked at Maya, who nodded without hesitation. "Of course we will," he said. "How many are we talking about?" "Approximately 2 million individuals," Vex replied, "including 800,000 young." The number hit Rex like a physical blow. 2 million. Beings who had never known violence, who had no concept of the brutality that was about to descend upon their world. And 800,000 children who would face a fate too horrible to contemplate. "We'll need ships," Rex said, his mind already working through the logistics. "Lots of them, and we'll need to find somewhere to take them." "The Coalition has already prepared a fleet of transport vessels," Vex replied. 43 ships, each, capable of carrying 50,000 individuals in emergency conditions. They are being crewed by volunteers from your species." "Volunteers?" "Word of this mission has spread throughout human space," Vex explained. "Within 6 hours of the Council's announcement, we received 200,000 applications from humans wanting to participate in the evacuation. We had to turn away 95% of them due to limited ship capacity." Rex felt that familiar tightness in his chest, pride mixed with something deeper. "And where will we take them?" "Several Coalition worlds have offered to host refugee populations," Vex said. "But that is not the most remarkable part of this situation." The hologram shifted again, showing a familiar star system, Earth's solar system. "The human government has offered to relocate 500,000 of the Gentle Ones to Earth itself," Vex continued. "Your species is willing to share your homeworld with complete strangers simply because they need help," Maya gasped. That's unprecedented. No species has ever invited refugees to their homeworld in Coalition history." "Indeed," Vex agreed. "Which brings us to the true nature of this test. The Coalition has watched humans care for our young for 3 years. We have seen you risk your lives to protect them. But this mission will ask something more of your species. You will be asked to give up resources, space, even the exclusivity of your own world, for beings you have never met." Rex looked out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. Somewhere out there, 2 million innocent beings were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that extinction was racing toward them at the speed of expanding industrial operations. "When do we leave?" he asked. Vex made that purring sound that meant approval. "The fleet is already assembling, at the edge of human space. You have commanded the Coalition's trust in the past, Captain Thorne. Now we are asking you to prove that trust was justified on the largest scale imaginable." Rex turned back to the hologram. "Elder Vex, with respect, you keep calling this a test. But from where I'm standing, It looks like an opportunity. Opportunity for what? To show the galaxy what happens when different species choose to work together, instead of just trying to survive alone. Maybe that's the real test. Not whether humans will help the gentle ones, but whether we can all build something better than what we had before. The hologram flickered, and for a moment, Rex could swear he saw something like a smile cross Elder Vex's predator features. Perhaps, Captain Thorne, that is exactly the test we need. The evacuation fleet hung in space like a constellation of hope at the edge of the forbidden sector. 43 massive transport vessels, each one a marvel of coalition engineering adapted for humanitarian purposes. Captain Rex Thorne stood on the bridge of the flagship New Dawn, watching the fleet's final preparations through the main viewport. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump, announced Commander Lisa Park, who had volunteered to serve as Rex's second-in-command for the mission. The former communications officer had been promoted after her performance during the Coil hatchling rescue. Time to destination? Rex asked. 18 hours at maximum sustainable speed, replied Navigator Tom Chen, Dr. Maya Chen's younger brother, who had insisted on joining the mission despite having no prior experience with deep space operations. Rex reviewed the mission parameters one more time. They had 37 days to evacuate 2 million gentle ones before the Void Collective's mining operation reached their world. 43 ships, each carrying crews of 50 humans, all of whom had volunteered for what might be the most challenging humanitarian mission in galactic history. Captain, came a voice from the communications station. We're receiving a priority transmission from Haven's Rest. The main screen flickered to life, showing Dr. Maya Chen in the station's command center. Behind her, Rex could see dozens of alien cubs from various species, going about their daily activities under the watchful care of human staff. Rex, Maya said, her voice carrying across the light years, I wanted you to know, the cubs are asking, about the mission. Somehow, they understand that you're going to help other children who are in danger. The screen shifted to show a young Talon cub, its scales still the soft gray of youth, rather than the metallic silver of adulthood. The cub held up a small object, a primitive drawing that appeared to show stick figures holding hands. Little Claw made this for you, Maya explained. She says it's a picture of humans and gentle ones being friends. Rex felt his throat tighten. Even the alien children understood what they were trying to do. Tell her thank you, he said quietly. Tell all of them we'll be back soon. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Commander Park spoke. Sir, all ships are standing by for your order. Rex looked out at the fleet one more time. These weren't military vessels. They were converted cargo haulers, passenger liners, even a few luxury yachts that had been retrofitted with emergency life support systems. Their crews were teachers, doctors, engineers, and ordinary citizens who had left their lives behind to help people they'd never met. All ships, this is Captain Thorne, he announced over the fleet communication channel. Today, we're not just representing humanity. We're representing the idea that intelligence means responsibility, that when we have the power to help, we have the obligation to do so. Let's bring these people home. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect synchronization, 43 streams of light stretching toward the unknown. 18 hours later, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. But as their sensors began mapping the system, Rex realized there was nothing unremarkable about what they found. My God, whispered Tom Chen from the navigation station. The planet. It's beautiful. The main screen showed a world of soft blues and greens, with cloud formations that spiraled in perfect mathematical patterns. There were no cities visible from orbit, no industrial complexes, no signs of the technological advancement that typically marked a spacefaring civilization. They're not spacefaring, Rex realized. They never developed the need for expansion or conquest. Sir, called out the sensor officer, I'm detecting massive population centers, but they're completely integrated with the natural environment. It's like they built their civilization to work with the planet's ecosystem instead of replacing it. Rex watched the scan results update in real time. 2 million individuals, scattered across the planet in communities that seemed to flow seamlessly into the landscape around them. No weapon signatures, no defensive installations, no orbital platforms. Just a peaceful world of beings who had never known they needed to defend themselves. "Launch the first contact shuttles," Rex ordered. "Teams of 5, maximum non-threatening profile. We need to explain the situation and convince them to come with us." The first shuttles launched an hour later, carrying teams of humans selected for their linguistic abilities and diplomatic training. Rex watched their progress on the tactical display, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether 2 million innocent beings lived or died. The report from the first contact teams arrived 6 hours later, and it was unlike anything Rex had expected. "Captain," came the voice of team leader Ana Rodriguez over the communication channel. "You need to see this for yourself." The main screen switched to show the feed from Rodriguez's suit camera. She was standing in what appeared to be a vast, garden city, where buildings seemed to grow from the landscape itself. And surrounding her were dozens of gentle ones, tall, graceful beings with large, expressive eyes and skin that seemed to shift color with their emotions. "We explained the situation," Rodriguez continued, "and they understood immediately. Not just the danger they're in, but what we're offering. They don't have a concept of warfare, but they understand kindness." The camera panned to show a group of young gentle ones, children who appeared to be playing some sort of game with patterns of light that they created by touching crystalline structures embedded in the ground. "The remarkable thing," Rodriguez added, "is that they're not afraid. They trust us completely, just because we told them we're here to help." Rex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature control. These beings had evolved, without the concept of deception, without the need for suspicion or distrust. They were offering their complete faith to a species they had never encountered, simply because those strangers had said they wanted to help. "How long do we have for the evacuation?" he asked. "That's the thing, Captain," Rodriguez replied. "They don't want to wait. Their leaders, they call them Harmony Speakers, have already begun organizing departure groups. They say they can sense the wrongness approaching their world, even though they can't see it yet." Rex looked at the tactical display, which showed Void Collective survey probes still 36 days away. "They can sense the collective ships?" "Not the ships specifically, but they're empathically sensitive to hostile intent. The Harmony Speakers say the feeling has been growing stronger for weeks, a darkness approaching from the void between stars." The implications hit Rex immediately. These beings weren't just innocent. They were psychically sensitive to the malevolent intentions of the approaching collective forces. They had been living with the growing dread of incoming annihilation without understanding what it meant. "Begin immediate evacuation," Rex ordered. "All ships, prepare to receive passengers. We're not waiting for the full timeline. We get them out now." The evacuation proceeded with stunning efficiency. The gentle ones had no concept of personal possessions beyond simple tools and artworks, so they brought only what they could carry. More remarkably, they seemed to instinctively understand the space limitations aboard the human ships and organized themselves into groups that would maximize the use of available life support resources. Rex walked through the passenger compartments of the New Dawn, marveling at how quickly the gentle ones had adapted to their temporary home. They had arranged themselves in family groups, with the adults creating protective circles around their young. Despite being crammed into emergency accommodations, they seemed almost serene. "Captain," one of the Harmony Speakers approached him. The being was taller than most of his species, with skin that shifted through subtle patterns of blue and silver. "I am called Whisper of Distant Rain. I speak for those who cannot yet find words for their gratitude." Rex inclined his head respectfully. "We're honored to help. Your people shouldn't have to face this alone." "You misunderstand," Whisper of Distant Rain replied, his voice carrying harmonics that the translator struggled to render. "We are not grateful merely for rescue. We are grateful for the lesson." "What lesson?" "For countless generations, we believed we were alone in our capacity for compassion. We built our civilization on the assumption that intelligence naturally leads to harmony, that conscious beings instinctively protect the vulnerable. Today, we learned we were wrong." Rex frowned. "Wrong how?" "We learned that compassion is not inevitable. It is a choice, and that makes it infinitely more precious." The Harmony Speaker's skin shifted to warm gold patterns. "Your species chose to risk everything for beings you had never met. This choice reveals the true nature of consciousness. Not the ability to think, but the ability to choose goodness even when it costs you. The words hit Rex with unexpected force. Around them, human crew members worked alongside Gentle One families, helping them settle into temporary accommodations, sharing food rations, even teaching the alien children simple games to pass the time. There is something else you should know, Whisper of Distant Rain continued. The young ones, they no longer sense the approaching darkness. What do you mean? The malevolent intent that has haunted our dreams for weeks. It fades when we are near your people. Your presence creates what we call light space, areas where harmful intent cannot take root. Rex stared at the Harmony speaker. Are you saying that being around humans somehow shields you from psychic threats? 2 years after the evacuation of the Gentle Ones, Captain Rex Thorne stood in the observation lounge of Haven's Rest Station. But the view had changed dramatically. Where, once there had been empty space, now a bustling hub of activity filled the viewport. Ships from dozens of species came and went in carefully orchestrated patterns, while massive construction platforms assembled new habitat modules that stretched for kilometers in every direction. The quarterly integration report. Captain. Doctor, Maya Chen said, entering the lounge with a datapad and a satisfied smile. I think you'll want to see these numbers. Rex accepted the report, though his attention was momentarily captured by a sight outside the viewport. A group of young Talon playing what appeared to be a modified version of a Gentle One Harmony game, their metallic scales glittering as they created patterns of movement that generated soft musical tones. Integration success rate is at 97.3%, Maya continued. The Gentle Ones have adapted to life in coalition space better than anyone predicted, and the psychological benefits to our other species have been remarkable. Rex scrolled through the data, noting statistics that would have seemed impossible 3 years ago. Aggressive incidents among coalition species were down 78%. Cooperative ventures between previously hostile species had increased by 340%. Most remarkably, several species had requested to house Gentle One refugees permanently, not as guests, but as full citizens. The Talon Consortium wants to make it official, Maya added. They're proposing to grant the Gentle Ones full membership in the coalition, despite their lack of advanced technology or military capability. And the others? Rex asked. Universal support. Even the Kraken depths, and you know how isolationist they usually are, have offered to create specialized underwater habitats for any Gentle Ones who want to experience life in the deep oceans. Rex set down the datapad and looked out at the construction activity again. In the distance, he could see the distinctive spiral architecture of a new Gentle One habitat being attached to the station's superstructure. The integration hadn't just been successful, it had transformed the entire nature of coalition society. There's something else, Maya said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. We've received a message from Earth. The Gentle One refugees there have been working with human scientists on something called the Harmony Project. What kind of project? They're teaching us to use their empathic abilities to detect hostile intent across interstellar distances. Early results suggest we might be able to create an early warning network that could prevent conflicts before they start. Rex raised an eyebrows. Psychic sensors? More than that. The Gentle Ones believe that their abilities, combined with human protective instincts, might be able to create what they call peace fields. Areas of space where aggressive actions become psychologically difficult to maintain. Before Rex could respond, the lounge's communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. The main screen activated, showing the familiar figure of Elder Vex. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood Whisper of Distant Rain, the Harmony speaker, who had become the unofficial ambassador of his people to the coalition. Captain Thorne, Vex began, we have news that will interest you. The Void Collective has made contact. Rex felt his blood run cold. Contact? What kind of contact? They want to negotiate, Whisper of Distant Rain replied, his skin shifting through patterns of blue and silver that the translator rendered as complex emotional states. The collective leadership has been affected by what they call the human precedent. I don't understand, Rex said. Vex stepped forward, his predator features arranged in what passed for a smile among his species. Word of the Gentle One evacuation has spread beyond coalition space. Other species, neutral parties, some we'd never heard of, have begun requesting human assistance with their own humanitarian crises. There are currently 17 separate missions underway, all staffed by human volunteers. The collective watched these operations. Whisper of Distant Rain continued. They observed humans repeatedly risking their lives for species they had never encountered. And something unprecedented happened. Some of their lower-ranking members began to question their purpose. Rex stared at the screen. Are you telling me that the Void Collective is having a crisis of conscience? Not the leadership, Vex clarified, but a significant portion of their population. They call themselves the Changed Ones, collective citizens who have abandoned the processing of sentient beings and requested asylum with Coalition worlds. Maya gasped beside him. How many? Approximately 4 million individuals, Vex replied. The largest refugee crisis in galactic history, and they specifically requested human oversight of their integration process. Rex felt that familiar tightness in his chest, but this time it was accompanied by something else, a sense of profound possibility. What are they offering in exchange for negotiations? Complete cessation of sentient processing, Whisper of Distant Rain said. Recognition of Coalition sovereignty over all inhabited worlds. And most significantly, they want to learn what they call the human way of protecting. The implications hit Rex like a physical blow. The most aggressive, ruthless civilization in known space was asking to learn compassion from humanity. There's one more thing, Vex added. The negotiations will take place here, on Haven's Rest. Every species in the galaxy will be watching. The collective specifically requested that humans lead the discussions. Rex looked out at the viewport again, where Gentle One children were playing alongside young Talon, Fang, and even a few Kraken offspring. The sight that had once seemed impossible, apex predators and absolute pacifists coexisting in harmony, had become routine. When do we start? He asked. The collective delegation arrives in 7 days, Vex replied. But Captain Thorne, there's something you should understand about the significance of this moment. Which is? 3 years ago, you asked me why we trusted humans with our cubs. Today, the answer has evolved. We don't just trust you with our young. We trust you with our future. The human approach to protection, to choosing compassion over self-interest, has begun to transform the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. Rex felt the weight of that responsibility, but also something else. Hope. Around him, the station hummed with the activity of dozens of species working together, playing together, growing together. Human children learned alongside alien cubs, while their parents collaborated on projects that would have been unthinkable just years before. Elder Vex, Rex said finally, Whisper of Distant Rain, I want you to know that humans didn't set out to change the galaxy. We just saw beings in need and decided to help. Yes, Whisper of Distant Rain replied, his skin shifting to warm gold patterns. That is exactly why it worked. As the transmission ended, Rex remained at the viewport, watching the endless dance of ships and beings that had become the new normal. Maya stood beside him, both of them contemplating a future that seemed brighter than either had dared imagine. Maya, Rex said quietly, do you think we're ready for this? Leading galactic peace negotiations? She smiled, gesturing toward the viewport where a group of human children was teaching a complex game to alien cubs from 6 different species. Rex, I think we've been ready for this our whole lives. We just needed the rest of the galaxy to catch up. Outside, the stars shone with the promise of worlds where protection mattered more than power, where the vulnerable were cherished rather than exploited, and where the greatest strength was measured not by the ability to destroy, but by the willingness to preserve. The age of predators was ending. The age of protectors had begun. 5 years later, the Galactic Protective Alliance, the organization that had emerged from the Coalition's transformation, operated 847 facilities across known space, all under human supervision. The Void Collective had been dissolved, its former territories now home to thriving multi-species communities. The Changed Ones had not only integrated successfully, but had become some of the most effective advocates for vulnerable species across the galaxy, and, at the center of it all, Captain Rex Thorne, now Director of Galactic Child Services, continued to do what humans had always done best, protecting those who needed protection, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Because in the end, that choice was what made them human. The end.